everybody out there in podcast land. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Get Happy podcast. Let's do this. And I'm very excited today to have as my guest, Dr. Andrew Gardella. Hello, Andrew. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I've known this guy for a while, actually. I got into Access way back, when we were only in 3 countries, as I think you did as well. And we've sort of exploded since then. So
Yeah, I don't know if it was 3 countries, but I mean it's over 10 years now.
yeah, it's been a minute. So Dr. Gardella, would you tell our fine listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, all the things?
Yeah, so I'm a certified access consciousness facilitator, and I facilitate 3-day body classes and a class called Energetic Synthesis of Structural Embodiment classes. They're with people bodies, and we work on horse bodies, and so those are the three main things that I keep my time with. And like I just said, I've been an access facilitator now for over 10 years, and the doctor comes from I went to chiropractic school, so I'm a doctor of chiropractic as well.
So
um,
do you use,
yeah.
I'm just curious, do you actually use any of the chiropractic stuff anymore in your practice, or is it all Access now?
I think, I mean, I still use some of it. I mean, a lot of it, everything I learned in school, I think, like the body knowledge and the anatomy and, just the hands-on stuff, I definitely still use. It just kind of, like with anything with the access tools, it transforms whatever you're using, because it changes. You can be a different energy with whatever you're using, and it all of a sudden it makes it, you know, it
I get it.
changes it.
I totally get it. Same for me. I ended up dropping a lot of modalities once I actually learned the bars. And then after that class, I had to know every body process that Access had to offer. And there's so many more now. Very exciting. How did you find Access?
I was in chiropractic school, like seminars, and like the at the time they were doing the what were they called, the telesummits. This is
Yeah.
before the Zoom days and everything else. So they would have those telesummits where they were phone interviews, and I was on one, and there was an email of like, oh, listen to the replay of Dr. Dane here. And I like opened the email and I read it, and I was like, oh, he's a chiropractor. Okay, I'll listen to it to see kind of what he's doing now. Because when I was in chiropractic school, I was trying to see what I wanted my future to be. How I wanted to do my practice, or whatever. So I was checking out all these other chiropractors to see what kind of they evolved from chiropractic school with. Like how, and kind of how they transitioned or whatever.
Sure.
So I listened to it and I was like, what is this? I just was like blown away with the replay, and I like listened to the replay for 5-6 times, and I was like, okay, I need to find a class. I need to, So a couple months later, there was like, I was in Florida at the time, and so there was a bars and a foundation class that came nearby, and I like went to the class and took it, and I was like, I don't know what the hell this is, but this is awesome.
I love it. That's how it was for me. I didn't quite understand it, but I couldn't deny that something had changed
Hmm.
dynamic. And then, because at the time I was doing a lot of tapping, and I would be with a client, and it would take like 10 sessions to get to a place where I felt like they were evolving or moving in the direction that they'd come to for. And then all of a sudden, there's this bars modality, and bam, one session could get them there in the
Yeah.
amount of time that it would usually take 10. So you took bars and foundation back to back?
Yeah,
And
the fight.
no.
They used to do them a lot more often, back in the day, back in our day, they used to do it. It used to be called 5 days is change or something, where you
Yeah,
do
that's
bars
right.
and foundation over like a long weekend.
Well, that's how
So
I met you, I think. No, wait, I met you at an advanced 3
advanced,
day
yeah.
with Gary Douglas. By the way, y'all, the founder of Access Consciousness, and then Dr. Dane here, for those of you that might be listening for the first time, the co-founder of Access Consciousness, and it's their fault we're even having this conversation. But what happened was is I met Andrew at an advanced, and then invited Glenna Rice. I think I was hosting her
Mhm.
for foundation, and you were her sidekick at the time, I think.
Yeah, I was doing back end and administrative things. And
Do you realize that was 8 years ago?
I have, you know, it was it feels like 50 in access years, you know.
It's like dog years. I love it. I love it. So then you decide to just kind of jump out of your practice, or what took place next?
Well, so for me, I graduated chiropractic school in December of 2012. And in August of 2012 was my first certified access facilitator training. So I
Mhm.
was a facilitator before I did, graduate school. And then I went and worked in an office for 6 months as an associate, and I just couldn't take it. I had like 2 weeks of vacation, and I had already, in 4 months, I was already using it just from, doing the access classes. And, to keep that license up to date, basically, you need about 2 weeks of, travel time and everything. So I was just like, I don't know how this is going to work. And I was in this little room, all these white walls, and I was like, calling insurance companies and everything. I was like, I just I can't do this.
Like being caged.
Yeah, I wasn't happy. The other thing is I really wanted to travel and see the world. And because I prior to that did undergrad and I went right to chiropractic school. So it was just like school, 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 school. So I never had any, kind of, oh, let's go on an adventure or anything. I
Right.
never really traveled or did anything, and I really wanted to. So I was like, well, there's no way, like, working in this office the way it is, I'm going to actually be able to do these things,
Mm.
like in the way I would like to do them. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go out, and I have this facilitating thing. I'm going to see if I can do it or not do it or whatever, but I'm going to try, because if I don't, I'm not happy now, and I'm definitely not going to be happy with myself if I don't, do, like, I just need to do this. Like, I'll be happy, even if I fail completely, like, I'll know I did it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure. I mean, you guys, I can't imagine Andrew being trapped in a box, working out of a little room, out of a tiny room. And I know Dane talks about it as well. He had this really, really tiny office. And where he lives now is wide open spaces,
Mhm.
and his neighbors are horses. And that intrigues me. You mentioned a class where you work on horses as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And that's an access thing as well?
Yep. So the class is called Energetic Synthesis of Structural Embodiment. And it's a class that was created by Susie Gatsu, who's another access facilitator. If you guys know her, if you're not, and we call it SE for short because it's way too long to say. Energetic synthesis of structural embodiment. And it's really working on it's body work in a different way of working on the body, because what if you could changing the molecular structures of the body, and it has some more hands-on kind of approach to it than maybe if you're familiar with the access body processes. They're just hands-on, and you just lightly put your hands on and you ask an energy to run. With SE, there's a little bit more physicality to it, I guess you could say.
Hmm. So you
And we
facilitate
work
that class. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
and so we do classes, like horses um are used to, like, one of the things is you can use this on any animal, obviously, but when horses tend to receive like massage or other things because their owners want to keep them in shape, whether it's for competitions or just, in general, the horses need, some work because of a fall or whatever. um, so yeah, and we do classes with the horses, and it's amazing. I think I learned so much. The odd thing for me was when I first started doing it, I learned so much about um, working on bodies from working on horse bodies,
Mm.
because like the horses give you feedback in a different way than people give you feedback. Like, if you're doing something wrong with the horse, it's going to let you know. Whereas if you do something wrong with a person, they might be like, "Oh, it's okay," or they don't say anything or whatever. And if you're doing something right with the horse, they let you know too, because all of a sudden they start falling asleep, or you can just tell they're into it.
Hmm. No, I've heard Gary say that everything he learned from a horse. And I remember one time he was being interviewed, and it was so funny, Andrew, because this horse was standing behind him, and he was sitting on a bench, and it just kept coming up. I don't know if you saw the video. It just kept nudging him, like, "Hey, pay attention to me." There was this love affair between him and this horse, and it was palatable. You could perceive it. You couldn't deny it. And I know that the very first CF training I went to in Costa Rica, we could ride horses every morning if you wanted to. And I think I only didn't ride one morning, and I got
Mhm,
the same horse every time. And I had never taken an SE class, but I've always loved horses. I used to live across the street from a farm, and
mhm,
my mom tells a story about how one day she was looking for me. I was 4 years old, and she's looking, and then across the turnpike, where the farm was, she saw me standing under a horse, petting its belly. So I
mhm.
felt like I felt like the animals were my friends way before the people
Yeah.
were. It was easier for me to communicate with them.
Mhm,
It's still that way with my cat. My cat loves to be stroked, and I'm always running whatever process her body's asking for. But it is amazing. They seem to be more willing to receive than people. Or have you noticed that?
well, I think there's just you know what one of the things we talk about with all the body classes that I facilitate is, well, your body has its own point of view and it has an awareness of what it requires. And you think that, oh, my body, this is what my body needs, but what your body actually needs might not be that. And so part of the facilitating of the body classes is really um, you know, assisting people in getting the awareness of listening to their body and like, just going with that, being willing to go with it.
Right.
And with horses, there's really no like separation between them and their body. It's just like, okay, this is what my body requires. This is what my body requires. It's not like, oh no, I can't eat that. That's going to make me fat. Or, oh no, like, today's Tuesday. We can't do that. I have other things to do,
I
so with the animals, I think the feedback is so different in that they just, they don't have a point of view about their body. It's like, okay. Whereas you're like, oh, I can't let my body do that. We're in public, or oh, I can't, you know what I mean? You have all these points of views about it.
The horse has no filter, y'all, is the point. It's funny, I remember my very first 3-day, which I took right after levels 2 and 3 back in the day. Somebody was hosting, I'm trying Casey Crisp, I think, in, Atlanta. So I went, stayed in the hotel that we were doing the classes in, and my big takeaway was this whole thing about how my body would have its own point of view if I would allow it, I was always kind of like Nazi with my body. I was a bodybuilder for years, very strict diets so that my body would work a certain way. When I got out of that, I became a marathon runner, and I was pretty brutal, Andrew, to my body. I never let it make any decisions on its own. And what I found would happen is I would get injured easily, or something would happen, and I'd be like, "Ah, I had an awareness that I was too tired to do this. I don't know why I
Mhm,
went and did it. Or I knew I shouldn't have done that extra pull up. My shoulders aching the next day, and I can't run and all the things." So I remember when we took this class and we were paired up. I remember her saying, "Ask the other person's body what they require." And I was like, "I can talk to somebody else's body." And with the tools and access, we have this heavy light tool, just how I perceive it when I'm talking to other people's bodies and my own body now. And I've come to the point now where I would say 90% of the time, my body's the boss of me now. And it's amazing the things that I would have never chosen that my body chooses. For
mhm,
example, a Coca Cola. That is not, I had this fixed point of view that if I drank a Coke, I was doing something mean and awful to my
mhm.
body. And yet I was denying it of something that it knew more about than I did, obviously.
Mhm.
So was that how it was for you? Or I mean, you were studying to be a chiropractor, so you were probably already talking to bodies.
Yeah, I think for me with access, everything just got easier, like so I was already in chiropractic school and I started asking it. Um, and then with the lighter heavy tool, it just became so much quicker and easier because I was like, okay, body, what food, what everything, what clothes, because the funny thing is, like we said, your body has an awareness of what it requires, and so you can just ask it, and you'll get an awareness. There will be some lightness to it, or you'll be drawn to it, or you
I got
and
it. Did you ever learn things like kinesiology before access? And I don't know if that's a chiropractic thing or not. Is it?
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
muscle testing.
Yeah. Because I remember doing that, but I was also tricking that out because
Hmm.
I'd be like, okay, buddy, we're going to run this marathon, buddy. And so, is it light for us to run Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? Is it? So I was still forcing it to do what I wanted it to do. But here I thought I was including it, and once I started clearing all of my points of view about all of that, again, it was like my body did not want to run as much as it was running.
Yeah.
Even yoga. I didn't want to do yoga, but when I found Pilates, oh my gosh, you could hear the angels sing.
Yes.
Finally, she's letting us do what we want. Because I had thought that's going to be too hard for me. You have to pull on straps and all this stuff. And my body loves it. I remember taking a class once and I was doing a private actually, and the woman was putting me into different poses and explaining all these different things that happen with the body with these poses, how the spine elongates and the fluid and all of this. And I found myself crying because my body was so happy that I was willing to be there to receive that.
Hmm.
I'll never forget. She goes, "So you in pain?" I went, "I don't know what's going on. I think my body's just so tremendously happy that I'm crying out of joy."
Hmm.
That's one of the weird. And y'all, that wasn't that long ago. That was maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I experienced that, and I'd already been in access for a long time.
Yeah.
So I want to keep talking about this. We just had to take a quick commercial break, and then I'd really like to talk to you more about this 3-day body class. Would that be cool?
Sure.
Now, a word from our sponsor. Feeling a little funky? Devi Essentials Pure Oil Blends can maximize your inner balance. These 100% pure oil blends are designed to vibrationally open up the channels within the physical and multi-dimensional bodies. Your body. So if you're trying to find your groove, let these pure essential oil blends work for you. For more information, go to rudranidevy.com. That's RUDRANIDEVI.com.
And we're back. So we're here with the fabulous Dr. Andrew Gardella, chiropractor and CF of Access Consciousness. And I'm actually thrilled beyond the beyonds because this fabulous man is going to come to my hometown, Nashville, Tennessee, and facilitate a 3-day body class. And I got to tell you, Andrew, a lot of the peeps I've been talking to are already so excited. And
Hmm.
most of them have no clue what they're in for. They have taken a bars class, they've taken a foundation class, and some of them have gone further, but a lot of them, they've taken a few little classes with me. And I'm like, okay, this is a mother loader, y'all. You're going to get a manual. You're going to have all these different tools you can use. And so please tell us a little bit about the 3-day and maybe what these people can expect.
Yeah, I think the thing is the 3-day class is it's a three, one, it's a body class. So why do I emphasize that? Well, really the point of the class is for you to see that your body has its own point of view. It has its own awareness, and it knows what it requires and desires. And so and really it's set up in a way that nurtures and contributes to your body, not necessarily, what you think you require. So the class tends to, with bars and foundation, there tends to be a lot of verbal talking, just to get information out. Well, the 3-day body class, the way the information is conveyed is through these body processes, which are energetic, hands-on. So what that means is you put your hands on the body and ask an energy to run, and the energy will run, and then the body gets to kind of drink that energy in, so to speak,
Mm.
and allow that to shift and change the body in the ways that it's kind of does. um, so there's not a whole lot of talking, which is what I really in a way really enjoy, because there's so much idea that we have to talk about everything to change things, and especially with our body we have to like talk at things and figure them out and then kind of thing. And well, with the body class that's not even true. You could just change the energy or be a different energy, and all of a sudden your body's just different. And I don't know, it's amazing to see what changes for people over the 3 days.
Well, you've said it a few times. You ask an energy to run. Well, isn't energy really and truly our first language?
Yep.
I mean, I,
And
I mean, I know that I've been, to other countries, as have you, and I can always, even if I don't understand the language that these people are speaking, I can perceive what's going on.
mhm,
There's this awareness of these people are unhappy with each other, or these people can't wait to get a room, or or whatever it
mhm,
might be. And you're right. I remember I've hosted a couple of people for 3-day classes. I had Cass here in 2019,
mhm,
and I remember at one point she was just reading out of, I think it was the Being You, or not Being You Changing the World, but the folks that had taken that class, they had all written little Being You stories.
mhm,
And she got to where she was just reading the stories because we were all so in the zone with what we were doing. And it
mhm.
was amazing. What's do you have like a story, like a where you witnessed some type of big change for someone in a class, or does anything
I
come to
mean,
mind?
I think it's every class. My favorite thing is to like go from day 1 to day 3, and like I'm like, wait, who is that person at day 3? Because you know what, they change so much that I'm not recognizing them, or I'm like, even after the first day, the second day, I'm like, was that person in the class the first day? I'm like, I did not see them. And I'm like, looking back in my head, to see, I'm like, oh yeah, they're this person. But I was just like, just from a day or two of the processes, how people start to change, and all of a sudden they look different or they're happier. I always like the other thing is, as people come in the first day sometimes and they're just like, you can tell they're a little down, or they're just, they're not happy with their body, or they're not having fun, or so they're not dressed their best, they're just kind of moping into the class.
Dragging their body along.
Yeah, not really. And then, by this time the day 3 comes on, all of a sudden they're dressed really nice, and they have this glow about them, and they're like, like bouncing around and stuff, and you can just tell it's like so different over the they're like, "Wait, is that the same person? Like, what's going on here?"
No, it's not.
No, it is not the same person. That's correct. Um, so I think that that's one of the coolest things that I see continually in the classes. Just how people, all of a sudden they get to relax and they receive, and when this, like, all the stress just kind of just melts out of their life and out of their body, and all of a sudden they're a different person.
I love that you said that. There's this level of vulnerability, you guys, when you're when you're gifting and receiving like this. And the beautiful part about it is if you're actually willing to receive and go there, you can change anything. I actually remember a woman in one of the 3 days that I hosted. This was early on. This might have actually been like 2011 or 12. I think that's when the 3 days were just getting started, if I remember correctly. And there was this one gal in there that actually, and this was a physical thing, you guys, she had a lot of acne on her face and on her arms. And she, was covering her arms up. And then she announced to the class on the third day, she was sleeveless, that her arms were just as bad as her face was bad, you know, her judgment of her body, um, as the first day. But by the third day, and you could visibly see that over 50% of this had actually cleared. And, it's like these points of view, these fixed points of view that we've held in our body are creating even the acne that gets created on our faces, that when you're willing to actually let that go, what can change? I've heard Dr. Dane say, if you, like when we do SOPs, where you turn around and even if you change one cell in that person's body, what could that create? One cell, y'all, and it can change everything. And I've seen it. Have you ever seen anything physical like that take place? I mean, you said the glowing part, which
I
I can
mean,
acknowledge. I've seen a lot of that.
I never I never write these things down. And then I'm like, things change and I'm like, oh, awesome. But I never, like I've had people come to the class and they lose weight over, like the next week after the class or something, like 10, 15 pounds
Wow.
from their body just changing. Pains that people had, like they start like by the end of the third day, they like don't tell me until the end of the third day, but they're like, oh, the first day, this pain I had, it was there for 5 years and it went away. And usually, like, I waited a full day to see if it changed because, usually it will go away, but then it comes back and it still
Right.
hasn't come back. And then they tell me after the class, months later or something that it's still gone and stuff. So I think the physical things, yeah, I don't. I'm so bad. I'm like,
I have a story
all
though.
these changes, I'm like, they change and they
Yeah.
change, and I'm like, yes. And
They
then,
came and got what they came for, or whatever it is. But I'll tell you the reason why I knew I had to take the 3 day. I had gone to take a bars class. I hadn't planned on taking foundation and level one. I hadn't planned on it. But the very first day, I had to have somebody drive me because I was training for a marathon. And I thought this car saw me and it didn't. And I had to dive into the ditch and I broke my right ankle. So I was in a boot and I had a friend drive me to the class and then they picked me up. But at lunchtime, the woman that was facilitating the class was asking me, "Do you want me to do a little work on your ankle?" And I said, "Really, you can do that?" She goes, "Oh, yeah." So I took off the boot. And I mean, Andrew, it was like, all the like red and purple and just gnarly looking. And I was in a lot of pain with it. And she started running a process called MTVSS, muscular terminal valence slothing system. So, and you don't even have to know what that means. But needless to say, she's running it on my ankle. And within like 10 minutes, I'm like, stop the pain. There's too much pain. There's too much pain. And with that process, from what I understand, it can get worse before it gets better. So
hmm
she stopped. And then before I went home and I was waiting for my ride, she started running it on my ankle again. And I maybe got in like 15 minutes and then I was like, "Ah, stop. This really hurts." And then I go home. I've already decided I'm coming back. But my friend can't bring me. I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to take a taxi. This is before the days of Uber, y'all. So I'd already decided I'm gonna take a taxi. And when I wake up the next morning, it's sore, but I'm not having that pain. I had elevated it like I was supposed to. And I get in the shower, y'all, and it's like brown and maybe yellow with just a little bit of purple. And I thought, what the fuck just happened here? I mean, this was a mess. It was like it looked gnarly. It looked like, Walt Disney had thrown up all over my ankle before. And then this was like very subtle, the colors. And I noticed that with the boot, I could actually walk on the boot a little bit. I didn't need the crutches.
yeah.
So I ended up driving myself to the 4 days or the 2 days. Well, I'm trying to remember now. Back then, was it 2 days or 4 days? I don't even remember anymore because now foundation is 4 days and it's all the days. But anyway, I digress. I was able to drive myself there. I was able to drive myself back for all the days.
Yeah.
And my doctor couldn't believe. He goes, "What did you do?" Because I had to have a follow up just a week
Yeah.
later. And he goes, "You're where you should be in 6 weeks. How did you pull that off?" And I was like, "Hmm." So I tried to tell him about it, and he's like looking at me sideways, like, "Okay, this woman is
hmm
high. I don't know." But he couldn't deny it. He goes, "Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. You should keep doing it." So that's when I was like, "That's it. I'm gonna take this 3 day body class." This woman had told me, and she was hosting Casey, and I went to Atlanta and did the class. But I was so amazed, y'all. And so then my body just kept changing exponentially after that. So by all means, don't choose the 3 day body class. Anyway,
hmm
so we've got it coming up here in Nashville, Tennessee, y'all, from July 15, 16, and 17. And right now we're doing it at the Devi Clinic. Things could change. We don't know. It just depends on how many bodies want to show up. So is there anything they need to prepare? It's just foundation and bars, correct? Or is there any
It's
other?
bars and foundation.
So that
You
part
need
hadn't
to have
changed.
well, to attend the 3 day, it's bars and foundation, and then either a foundation or another advanced class within the year of the start of
Oh,
the
good to know. I was unaware of that. So I'm glad you pointed that out. So
Mhm.
any advanced class.
Yeah, it could just be having taken foundation too within the last year. or any advanced class taught by Gary, Dane, Brendan, or so.
Got it. Okay, cool. You guys, I'll make sure to have that on the show notes so you'll know what you need to
Yeah.
do
And
about.
I mean, if you're registering on the Access website, it lets you know. The website's smart now. It lets you know if if you have the prereqs or not after you register, and you know.
Yeah, it'll be poking you like, hey, if you really, because it'll sign you up, but it won't let you pay for it until you take whatever it is you require to
Mhm.
finish. And if you have taken it and somehow the CF or somehow it didn't get listed, all you have to do is reach out to customer service at accessconsciousness.com. Easy for me to say.
Mhm.
And they'll help you out with all that. You actually get a person when you call too, which is pretty amazing. I love that about us. So,
Mhm.
this is called the Get Happy podcast. So I have to ask you the question, Andrew. How do you get your happy on?
How do I get? I like to stay happy. I don't have to get it on. But I notice
Let's
usually
get it
I just look at
on. Sorry.
if you're looking to like for me, I was just like I was talking about how I chose to become start facilitating this more full time. I was like, okay, so what's going to I would just ask, okay, so what would really make me happy here, or what could I choose that makes me happy? And I'm like, okay, that, and I just go and choose it. So often we don't allow ourselves to just choose the things, but you you could.
True story. Yeah, I mean it's funny because my some of my family and friends are, you're so decadent. You travel around the world and you do these things and that thing and yada yada yada. I'm like, well, when I'm a happy girl, all the people around me,
Mhm.
get happy. Or if
Yeah,
they lose. If I'm cranky pants, no one's gonna want to play with me. And
yeah,
personally, I like taking care of me and doing the things my
yeah,
body likes. It's fun for me. It's like
yeah,
facilitating classes and taking access classes. Oh my goddess, that's so much fun for me.
yeah,
My mother's like, are you working all the time? And I went, it's not work.
yeah.
When you're creating your happy, how could it possibly be work? So that's so cool. I'm so happy that I'm so happy that you agreed to be my guest. Andrew, thank you so very much. I'm loving the long hair. Got to tell you,
Thank you.
it's very nice. It's very nice.
It's
You just
a
wouldn't
result
have
of
it.
COVID. It's
What's
COVID.
that? It's COVID hair, y'all.
Yeah,
Yeah, Andrew moved to a farm when COVID started. And I feel so sorry for him. I know he must be hating it.
yeah. It's so much nicer.
And you have your horse there too, don't you?
Yeah,
Cool, cool. Well, one of these days I'm going to get to the farm. I'm hoping to get to a 7-day there, maybe this year. What else is possible? So,
yeah.
if our peeps were looking for you, where would they find you?
You can find me at andrewgardella.com or accessconsciousness.com/Andrew Gardella.
Cool. I'll have that all in the show notes as well. And if you guys liked this conversation, you can subscribe below. Maybe
Mhm.
share this conversation with those that you perceive it could be a contribution to. Maybe. Hmm, I don't know. It's up to you. And if there's anything that you want us to talk about on the Get Happy podcast, I do read all the notes. So by all means, ask away. Thanks again. I highly appreciate you joining us today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you whenever it happens, probably before July. I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see. All right.
Thank you so much.
Ciao, ciao for now, y'all.